Hello everyone, this is Kavita from First Time English. My topic for presentation is Why Budini Matters. Progress in so called civilization demands a heavy price, and all too often it is exacted from schools among the poor, marginalized, and disenfranchised. Budini Mehrjan is one among the countless whose lives and livelihoods have been trampled upon by uncaring society but can't be bothered with the poverty stricken unless it is to exploit them. Yet her story deserves to be told, and Sarah Joseph, a highly feted Malayalam novelist and activist, makes a commendable attempt to rescue Budini from oblivion. Budini, a novel translated from Malayalam by Sangeeta Srinivasan, reminds us a life that ought not to be forgotten and seeks to open our eyes to the horrors of unrelenting modernization with no regard for ecological balance. Crores of people have been uprooted from their soil for mega development projects before and after independence. It was a disturbing thought that their stories have gone unrecorded. According to data with United Nations Commissioner for Refugees, people have been displaced for development projects on a large scale in India. Since 1947, 60 to 65 million people have been uprooted, including 40% of tribals and 40% Dalits, and marginal farmers and activists Megha Patka had sought UN intervention. On December 6, 1959, then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had gone to inaugurate the Panchat Dam across the Damodar River. A girl chosen by the Damodar Valley Corporation (DVC) welcomed the Prime Minister with a garland and a tika on his forehead. The 15-year-old girl was ostracized by villagers later, citing violation of Santal tribal traditions. She was expelled from the village. Budini was her name. Nehru had made the labourer girl who used to carry bricks and mud for the construction of the Panchat Dam inaugurate the dam. But after the photo session, she had ceased to be a story for newspaper. DVC also dismissed her from a job, perhaps because of the talk among villagers that she was Nehru's wife. How she lived her life after the incident wasn't anyone's concern. Even now, people in lemon villages on the eastern borders of Jharkhand are fighting against the acquisition of their fertile land for construction of a thermal power plant by the Danis. The realization that the story of Budini is also the story of the uprooted people is what motivated the author to write a novel on her. Her story should not have gone unwritten. She had to develop it into a story of the Santal tribe as well as a population that lives peacefully in the areas that are fertile and rich in resources without exploiting them. The author felt that Budini had to be revived from the criminal forgetfulness of the country. She wasn't just a mud block that was broken during the great nation's building process. The author felt that she should rise again in the nation's memory, along with the hundreds of villages, vast farmlands, forests, and temple complexes that were drowned in the Panchat Reservoir. Budini is a novel based on the article. It is not a life story or an historical novel. The author started writing it as a story of Budini who was dead. While writing it, she took an utmost care on how to blend history with fiction and how to merge news and fiction. The life Budini lives in her novel may not be the life of the original Budini. The original Budini's life wasn't what her character called for, that she left the imagination and possibilities. The author's assessment is that imaginative power will help the historical facts truthful. In the course of researching the novel, she had discovered that Budini, now in her 70s, was alive. It was purely coincidental that she got to meet her as well. She could experience the same wonder and happiness she felt all through writing this novel. Thank you for listening to this video. I hope you all have a nice day.
When the Kurunji Blooms by Rajam Krishnan. Rajam Krishnan. Rajam Krishnan was born in Musiri, Tamil Nadu, and married before she completed high school. A prolific writer, she wrote her first novel Swatantra Jyoti in 1948. Publishing almost continuously since then, her work spans a variety of literary genres fiction, essays, biographies, short stories, and a travelogue. Her writing is bold but radical, and her feminist perspective and socialist ideology are tempered by her work has been extensively translated into other Indian languages. Her works depict the lives of women in Tamil Nadu, particularly the Brahmin woman, in a realist style and lucid language. The intertwining of tradition and modernity is one of the hallmarks of her writing. She is the recipient of New York Herald Tribune International Award in 1950 for the short story, Sahitya Academy Award in 1973, Soviet Land Nehru Award in 1975. She has been honored with several other awards such as Kalaimagal Award in 1953 and Thiruvika Award in 1991. Background: Kurinji Then was first serialized in the magazine Kalaimagal 40 years ago. This novel is about the life of the people of Nilgiris. Rajam Krishnan tried to portray the changes that is happening in the society. Peoples nowadays are not aware of when the Kurinji blooms. They are running towards a materialistic life. When the Kurinji blooms is a saga of three generations of Badagas spanning 50 years. It begins with the Badagas leading a tranquil and contented life at a time when the Nilgiri hillsides were covered with Kurinji flowers every 12 years and ends with the advent of hydroelectric power in the Nilgiris. The Badagas are an ethno-linguistic community living in the Nilgiri district in Tamil Nadu, India. Throughout the district, the Badagas live in nearly 400 villages called Addis. The Badagas speak a language called Badaga. This novel is about the changes that took place in the Badaga community and the people of Nilgiris for three generations.
Hello everyone and one and all present here to welcome my presentation about When the Kurinji Blooms, the author named Rajan Krishnan. Now let's move on it background of Kurinji blooms. Background of Kurunji flower. Kurunji is the famous flower which makes the Nilgiri hills blue. Kurunji is a bright blue bell-shaped flower found on the hill slopes of the Western Ghats at an altitude between 6,000 to 7,000 feet. The unique feature of this flower is that it blooms once in 12 years. Now let's move on it. The forest is a continuous living story witness to ups and downs of the civilization. The line says about say. The novel When the Kurinji Blooms highlights the changes that occur in nature and the life of the Badaga tribes in Nilgiris with a span of 3 generations of life. It brings out the changing attitude of man towards nature and his fellow human beings. It throws light on man's greed and his race for power and money, which results in the plundering of the luscious beauty of nature. Rajam Krishnan talks about the impact of urbanization of the tribal communities and the destruction caused to nature in the name of progress. She portrays the pollution that permeates into the minds of the tribal communities and nature. Swalanatha Ragarajan in his essay engaging with Prakriti. And let's move on its setting of the novel. When the Kurjim portrays the lives, 3 generations of a single village or settlement called Maragada Malai Nadi. The story revolves around Lingaya, his son Jogi and grandson Nanjan. Lingaya is a kind-hearted man who has exciting love and respect for nature. He lives a simple and contented life with his wife Madi and son Jogi. Thanks to the grazing years, as a young man, Lingaya has the opportunity to lead a life of tranquility in the midst of nature, free from the pollutions of urbanization. Lingaya represents the past generations who have lived an amicable life in harmony with nature. The Badaga lifestyle is Nil of Nilgiris, which is adopted of Badaga tribes, who when of life is an expression of sincerity and oneness with nature. They are basically men and simple cultivators who cultivate to sustain their lives and not to hold with. Langaya represents the past generation who have lived an amicable life in harmony with nature. Becoming endangered tribes in the context of longer societies, some observations that the novel tries to be implied. The people like Lingaya, Jogi, and Paru strive hard to preserve nature and their eco-based lifestyle. They are the crusaders of nature who strive their level best to preserve it and ensure that nature is left as a legacy for their posterity to live a healthy and peaceful life. It also shows that people like Jogi and Paru are outnumbered by self-centered heartless people like Ragan who had no conscience and value money more than nature. The short sightedness of such people destroy the basic way of wealth and happiness, thus bequeathing on or ailments the mind of the body. At the end of the novel, the purity of nature is defined by man, who goes into the town and brings back persistence into the realm of clean environment, thus polluting nature and man with destruction. This is an unforeseen calamity. The plantation fields bring in a new demand for workers and hence some of the tribal people abandon cultivation and begin to work into the plantations. The novel triumphs. At the end of the novel, Jogi learns to accept, progress, and lives his life with the remaining exiting nature. He finds solace in his traditional cultural way of life, though he is unable to accept the mortal way of life. And he spends the rest of his life in his village trying his level best to keep up the traditions and customs in every way responsible. Paro finally finds peace and contentment in the love and care Nanjan and his life home. Parasidan stills a last breath. Nanjan settles down for a modern life to is content with his sons. The novel ends with a note of peace and tranquility between man and nature. As the resignation truly been arrived at, only nature can answer the question. Thank you for once again watching this video.
When the Kurunji Blooms by Rajam Krishnan. Rajam Krishnan was a feminist writer from Tamil Nadu. She started publishing in her 20s, and her writings are well researched social novels on the lives of people. Her works include 40 novels, 20 plays, and 20 biographies, several short stories. She was a translator of literature from Malayalam to Tamil. Background to Kurunji Blooms. It was translated from a Tamil Kurunjendan. Rajam Krishnan's lyrical and erudite novel is a family saga of 3 generations of Badagas in the Nilgiris. As the modernity of social change and modernity invades their protected life, the innocence and harmony is replaced, and there the conflict and tragedy precedes their new beginning. The novel, When the Kurunji Blooms, highlights the changes that occur in nature and the lives of Badagas tribes in Nilgiris. It throws light on man's greed and his race for power and money, which result in the plundering of luscious beauty of nature. So here the author talks about the urbanization of tribal communities and destructions caused to nature in the name of progress. They are basically Hamdans and simple cultivators who cultivate to sustain their life and to hoard wealth. The novel actually tries to imply that people like Lingaya, Jogi, and Paru strive hard to perceive nature and their eco based lifestyle. They strive their level best to preserve it and ensure that nature is left as a legacy for their prosperity. Jogi learns to accept the progress and live his life with the remaining existing nature. Though he is unable to accept the modernity way of life, he spends the rest of his life in his village trying to revel best to keep up the tradition and custom. Finally, the novel ends with a note of peace and tranquility between the man and nature. Thank you.
I'm Lohit. I'm going to talk about the themes of nature that has been explored in the novel When the Kurunji Blooms. Author intro. Rajam Krishnan, born in 1925 in Mussoorie, Trichy district in Tamil Nadu, is an important Tamil writer. Her work depicts the lives of women in Tamil Nadu, particularly the Brahmin woman, in a realistic style and language. The intertwining of a tradition and modernity is one of the hallmark of her writing. She is unable to come to terms with what she perceives to be the unchanging plight of the woman in a society, irrespective of whether they are traditional or modern. She one remarked in an interview, "It is a shame that the suffering woman underwent in a many days dog them even know." Krishna's work expressed that the way or perpendicular in one form after another. Her novels and short story has been translated in various Indian language and English. The novel tried to imply that people like Lingaya, Jogi, Paru strove hard to preserve nature and their eco-based life system. People like Rangan, who had never conscious and value more than nature. At the end of the novel, Jogi learns to accept the progress and live his life with the remaining existing nature. The novel ends with a note of peace and tranquility between man and nature. Nature is the selfless entity who has unfolded all her beauty wealth for the survival of all beings. Nature was destructured when a man turned a greedy and he became a superior. He plucked the earth in the name of progress to satisfy his instability greedy for wealth. The novel When the Kurunji Blooms emphasized the change that happened in the lives of Badagas tribe in the Nilagiri due to the modernization and destructions of nature in the name of development. The novel is set in the hills of Nilagiri and it portrayed the lives of three generations of a single village called Maragamalai Hatti. The story revolves around a Lingaya, his son Jogi, and his grandson Nanjan. The novel implies characters like Lingaya, Jogi, and Paru strive hard to preserve nature and their eco-based lifestyle. Thus, the change occurred in the nature portrayed a generation voice in the novel, and the novel ends with a right of note of a peace and tranquility between man and nature. Nature exploited in the name of urbanization, civilization, man tend to push the boundaries of the nature and use every inch of it, destroy the beauty of nature, which they call the progress. Choosing a tea plantation over a food cultivation, allowing to build a dam, Madi forcefully separated from his son, Paru getting married to Rangan without her consent.